Welcome to Talking with Springfield Township. We have in our studio today the Township Administrator for Springfield Township, Chris Gilbert. Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
And
Thanks
we
for having us.
also have someone that we have previously introduced to you as Chief Leininger, as the fire chief, but that is not your role today.
That's correct.
Your role today is Customer Experience Coordinator.
Yes.
So thank you for coming back to be that, and thank you for joining us. And we're going to talk about what in the world does that even mean, because we're going to talk about hospitality.
Right.
Which is not something that we often talk about in a local government perspective. What is the difference when we say hospitality versus service?
Okay, so that's the fundamental question, right?
Okay.
And I think the difference for us, and really for anybody who's in the hospitality industry, which is what you typically think of as resorts, hotels, airlines, restaurants, things of that nature, people don't usually equate government, or in particular local government, to that. And hopefully this conversation today will change people's minds and realize that local government really is the foundation of service providing, and therefore should really adopt and adapt their services to more of a hospitality mindset. So what does that mean? What's the difference between service and hospitality? Well, a lot of people talk about that. And, you know, in the office, we study a lot of the works of Danny Meyer and Will Guidera, both hospitalitarians and restaurateurs out of New York. And, you know, they define service as the technical delivery of a product or service. And the hospitality side of that, why is that different? Hospitality is how do you make the person that's receiving that service or product feel when you're providing that service? So service is, again, the technical sort of delivery of the service or product, and then the hospitality is how does that person that's receiving that service feel when you're providing it? You know, the genesis of this came from my wife and I are huge foodies, and we go out a lot, and we experience a lot of different restaurants, and inevitably we receive good service, and sometimes we receive bad service, right? And so the light bulb clicked for me one day. We were having dinner at a restaurant, and I had this phenomenal service, and I thought, why can't we do this at the local government level? Why can't we empower our employees to go above and beyond the simple aspect of providing government service? The way I view it is people pay taxes voluntarily. And sometimes when I say that, people look at me and think, well, no, they're required to pay taxes. Right. You're right. But only once you've made a decision to invest or move to a community are you then required to pay taxes there. But the first decision, which is to move to an area, to invest in an area, to buy a home in an area, is voluntary. Mm-hmm. No differently than it's voluntary for you to go out to dinner. But once you eat that dinner, it is required for you to pay the bill. Mm-hmm. Same concept. So what we want to do is make sure people choose Springfield Township as a place to pay that bill. We want them to come to our community, experience hospitality, or choose our community because of how we provide hospitality, and then voluntarily decide to stay there and pay those taxes. So what we want to do through our way of delivering services or hospitality is to make people choose Springfield Township and keep choosing them to stay there. So we want to create that emotional connection for people, much like you do when you go to your favorite coffee house.
And I like that comparison, because that helps me see what you mean about the difference between service and hospitality. Right. Either way, I expect to get service, and the hospitality part is what's going to make me come back. And I think at the local government level, it's easy to just stop at service and say, I don't know, I have these services, and we check off the box. And yes, you can get a permit, and yes, you can find out where our park is. But that's it. It's there. That's all we need to do. And hospitality means, but do I really enjoy how I feel when I do those things in Springfield Township?
Right.
Versus someplace else? They'll both give me the same services, but how is my experience getting those services?
How does that interaction feel with your local government? And we feel like it should be, we believe that it should make you feel seen, valued, and heard as a resident. And you are a customer of our services because, again, you chose to live there. So we will treat you that way and understand that we have to earn your business. And that's no differently than anyone else in the hospitality business. And if governments, look and look at that in that way, I think we can radically change the way people view local government, and we can transform the way local government provides service to their customers or their residents.
So, Rob, you came on board to be coordinator of this hospitality initiative. What does that look like? We know you're familiar with the township because we know that you've been part of the township for many years and as the fire chief, but what does it look like to be coordinator for hospitality now?
Well, the change is to focus on experience that the customer is going to receive. Or it's all about a feeling where we live in a world of exemplary customer service. We have high expectations for our employees. So when you call 911 and whether the police or the fire or public works shows up, the customer has an expectation of service. But we want to take it to the next level. We want to exceed that expectation. And we're focusing on that feeling that the customer has. We want them to feel like we've exceeded their expectation. And we're trying to achieve that by changing the culture. And we do that we're very selective with the people that we hire. So it starts at the beginning, selecting the right people. Now, obviously, people have to have qualifications, certifications. So we're making sure that they come in at a high level of experience. But oftentimes they don't bring that empathy or that compassion or that hospitality. We call it a service heart, that they have to learn that. And so part of my job is to be a coach and to coach some of these new employees coming on that what does it mean to have a service heart and to provide exemplary customer service at such a high level.
When we created the sort of hospitality training platform at the township and the idea of what we're calling municipal hospitality, while I know we're a township and not a municipality, but we use the term municipal hospitality because I think it makes sense to most people. They can grasp what that means. And what we're really looking to do with our employees is really three things in how you implement hospitality. It's hiring. Are you hiring the right people? And what we look for is we hire for attitude, not aptitude. So do you have the right attitude that fits into the culture of hospitality? We can train the specific skills. But if you're not coming in already with the attitude of service, if you're not, a friend of mine who calls it, if you're not a true hospitalitarian, then maybe we're not the right fit for you. Additionally, we want to empower our employees to provide those above and beyond experiences for our residents and customers. Do they feel like they have the power in the field when a situation presents itself to go ahead and take that action to provide that hospitality service that we're looking for? Are they empowered to do that? And then lastly, and equally important, are we rewarding them or are we recognizing employees when they do that? When they go above and beyond and they provide that hospitality, are we giving them the opportunity to be recognized? And so what we want to do is create a culture where they realize that, one, this is the expectation. Two, I'm empowered to do it. And three, I'll be recognized and celebrated when I do. And so with that three-prong approach, we feel like we're creating a unique sort of atmosphere and culture within our organization to further the hospitality mindset.
Are you hearing back from staff?
Yeah, and I'll let Rob touch on this as well, but I think for me, in my position, I don't always hear the chatter, right? Sometimes, my office can be lonely. I don't get to hear everything that's going on just because people may or may not feel comfortable letting me know. But I do hear third party that in conversations in departments, people are using the word hospitality, or they're looking at ways to provide service that gets us more toward our goal of hospitality, which is encouraging for me that in such a short amount of time, people have bought in and understand the importance of it. Because as I've told people from the beginning of this and our staff, even if you do this purely in a selfish way, that's okay. Because it really is, because doing nice things for people make you feel good, right? And so, and in a way that's selfish because you're doing it because it makes you feel good. But if at the same time you're providing something to make someone else feel good on the other side, then it's a win-win and that's okay. Just like when you go to your favorite coffee house, as you explained, or you go to your favorite restaurant, or you have a favorite place you go on vacation, right, where the staff maybe knows you and says, hey, welcome back, we're good to see you again. You know, is Caitlin with you this time? Those kind of things. And you're like, no, we're kid-free this vacation.
Yeah.
You establish that emotional connection with that place, right? And as we know, home buying and where you're going to live is much more of an emotional decision than it is a financial one. And so we have to recognize that as government service providers and know that people made an emotional decision to live in your community. Not always, but most of the time. And as a result, we want to make sure that we further that emotional connection they have with the community. And how do we do that? We make them feel valued, and how you do that is through hospitality. And I tell our police and fire this all the time. And when he was fire chief, I don't think he always liked to hear this, but it's the truth. People don't choose where they live because they have great police and fire and great storm sewers. They just don't.
You don't have storm sewers on the flyers for the township or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
So
okay.
it's not in our tagline, the best storm sewers in Hamilton County. So my point is that people choose where they live because how that place makes them feel. All that other stuff is important. You may decide to move out one day because police and fire isn't doing their job, but you don't choose the initial decision to move to an area isn't those very technical service delivery things. It's how does that place make you feel? And so we want to tap into that.
It's the push versus the pull.
Absolutely. And we feel like, especially places like Springfield Township or some other communities that may not have all the resources in the world, I may not be able to pave every street every year that everyone wants us to do, and I understand that. But our competitive advantage can be how we make people feel when they interact with us.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost us anymore. It's just a mindset. And it's a shift in culture for local governments. As opposed to feeling like residents need us, which they do in times of emergency, we need them more than they need us. Rob's role, and I said this before too, he was a phenomenal fire chief, outstanding. But I brought him back as customer experience coordinator because he was a better hospitalitarian, if that's possible, than he was as a fire chief. And so his job as a fire chief, and he did a phenomenal job at that, but every time someone came in, he treated them like I want all of our staff to treat all of our residents. And he was performing at a very high level from a hospitality standpoint before as a fire chief. We just didn't call it that. But now, we can put some nomenclature to it and a word to it. He understands what it is, and he's running with it. And, much like our innovation committee, he's established a hospitality committee made up of staff from various departments. And so I'll let him explain that, but he's working with them to come up with ways that we can, again, impart that within our hiring and our onboarding process, empowering our staff as well as then recognizing them. So
Thank you.
So tell me some of the specific, now that we have hyped you up and we know that you are better at hospitality than you are at being a fire chief, which is phenomenal.
Thank you.
What are some of the specific projects that you've been able to work on, or some of the feedback you've had so far?
The hospitality committee that we've put together is to identify ambassadors of hospitality. I call them hospitologists.
Okay.
They're out there kind of doing their thing.
we're making up words today.
I'm completely in favor of just making the word hospitality into as many other words as we possibly can.
Sure.
Maybe if you're watching this and you've got other ideas on making this in, you should comment, because we need to know all the possible ways you can use the word.
Maybe we should create a
hospitality.
bingo card for this segment. And
We need to know every possible way. It could be a verb, an adjective, anything you want.
Right.
Sharon's, any part of
Yeah.
speech. Sorry to interrupt.
That's
yes,
okay.
Tell me some
So
specific
the
ways.
hospitality committee really, there's representatives from every department. They're ambassadors. They're promoting hospitality and making sure that it's just talked about and it becomes part of our culture. I can't be in every department, but they're looking for opportunities. And when they see somebody doing something really nice, they recognize them for it. And again, it goes back to that feeling of gratification and the sincere caring and helping your fellow employee, whether it's a resident or a visitor or a business owner. It all comes back to that feeling. And I think you talk about enrichment, that's what makes Springfield Township really special, is it's the people. You're only as good as your people. And it starts with hiring the right people, and then making sure that they're well taken care of when they're there. And part of taking care of is to give them an opportunity to feel valued, to experience that positive gratification that they get from helping others, helping their fellow employee as part of a team and providing that exemplary service. So we really put a lot of emphasis on the term experience and feeling.
Okay.
And that feeling at times can be, you have to show empathy, you have to show compassion, you have to be part of the team and encouragement. And a lot of that goes back to that, again, positive feeling. Some of the things that we've have started recognizing employees for is just doing nice things that for other employees, or when they do something nice for a resident. And we have the ability through internal ways of doing that. We actually, our community enrichment director has put together some fancy ways of kind of scanning a barcode, and bam, it's not a barcode, a QR code. And it allowed us to then communicate internally and recognize people. Sometimes it's just anonymous, where somebody did something really above and beyond. And so we have the ability to recognize those people internally, as well as having the ability for our residents to recognize our employees for doing something really exceptional. And a lot of times it's just being nice. It's the feeling, it's the, and so we have developed this card.
Yes.
We give these out to our various customers, and it's got a QR code on it.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll put their name on the back. For example, if Public Works is there doing some brush removal, and they may have one and hand it to one of our residents and says, here's an opportunity to ask questions about Springfield Township. It gets them into our website, which is very comprehensive and has a lot of information about everything we do. And then as well, it gives them an opportunity to provide feedback.
It's our own version of a Yelp review.
So when you're out in the community doing projects, it might be brush clearance you mentioned, there's just anything that staff might be interacting with the public. These cards, they'll see these cards show up, and they might put their own staff info on the
Right.
back. So if it comes back, they'll know that. And that's great because it's one step. That QR code will go directly to where they can give you feedback,
Right.
and you'll get it.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned having something like that set up internally so that staff can celebrate
Right.
something that they saw internally, and they can say, hey, sitting down to send an email and typing this out, or remembering to go upstairs and give that feedback is too far. You've put something in place that makes it one little snap and click, 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 and I've left some feedback. And
Right,
person-
yeah, and
that's
Rob
good.
mentioned our community engagement coordinator, Caitlin, has done a phenomenal job of creating this and the survey, both the internal and the external survey for us, as well as the postcard. So it's a good way for us to get feedback, for us to see what is going right, what people value, what people we may not be doing very well, so we can correct or fix. Something else we're doing now, we just started, is if someone comes to a board meeting and gets up and speaks, provides comment to the board, has a question, they have an issue that needs worked on, Rob, as the customer experience coordinator, will send them a letter, a personalized letter saying, hey, we understand you came to the board meeting, you had this issue, just so you know, I'm your point person, I will work with our various staff members to address this issue for you. If you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out to me, so they know that you didn't just come and speak and it's going nowhere. We've internalized that, and we'll work with our staff to address that issue. Now, we may not always be able to satisfy it in the way that the resident or the customer may have exactly wanted, but I think most of the time what people are looking for is just that they were heard. So we had an elderly lady call one time, the fire department, that her basement was flooding, or that she was receiving stormwater maybe that was infiltrating the house somehow.
Okay.
We came out, the plumbing, I think, had broke and was flooding her basement. So we shut off the plumbing, and she determined that while I'm glad you did that, I'm having people over this weekend, and unfortunately, I can't get my plumber here till Monday. And so I have this issue now. I'm going to have my grandkids here. They're staying with me, and I can't have. So luckily for us, on our staff and on that shift one day, we have a firefighter paramedic who is also a licensed plumber. And while this wasn't his responsibility, and it's not what he was there to do, he went above and beyond and said, look, I'm really, I'm not here to do this, but he went ahead and fixed her plumbing for her while he was there at no charge, got her back up and running, was able to have her kids there that weekend, her grandkids, and, everything went off without a hitch for her. Again, what are those opportunities in providing service where you can go above and beyond and make people feel that, you really cared about them? Another example, we had a police officer who went out and the lady had locked herself out of her house inadvertently.
Okay.
Well, as opposed to just saying, well, here's a number you can call locksmith, she said, hey, is your back door open or your back window? And the lady said, yeah, it is. She goes, okay. Our officer jumped the fence, went behind, went in her house, went through the front door and opened the house for her. Again, not necessarily her job, but those are the opportunities we're looking for. If you have a flat tire, are we just going to sit there and wait for a tow truck to come? Or are we going to get out and help you change the tire? Most recently, we had a situation where we had a young lady fall and cut her leg on a storm sewer grate that was out of whack. Well, not only did we have to go out and fix the storm sewer, but we were obviously concerned about the young resident who cut herself. One of our staff people figured out what are the things that this little girl liked and put together a gift basket and went and delivered it to her to make her feel a little better about being injured. It's those things that I think can be our competitive advantage as a township as compared to other communities, that we're not here simply to provide service. We're here to make you feel good about where you're at.
And I see the difference between, from an administrative point, you are challenging your staff to say, did you just do the minimum? Did you just provide the service that was on the box? Right. Or did you find out what would make their day better related to this? What's the whole picture? What's the big picture of what's happening to that person in that moment? Is it just that there's a grade out of whack? Or does someone having a terrible day now because she skinned her knee, and how can we make the day better?
We have a saying, especially in public works, and I think it permeates throughout the entire organization, that if we have the resources and it's not illegal for us to do it.
Good point. Yes, thanks.
Right, those are two important things, right? Let's get past those two criteria first. If we can jump those two hurdles, then we're going to take care of that request. That's what we're here for. We don't exist other than to provide service to our customers and our residents, and not in a way that just makes them feel like I got the bare minimum, but we want them to walk away saying, I got more than I was expecting, which is exactly why when you call us, there's no answering machine that picks, well, I take that back. There may be, depending on who you call. But the main numbers you call, you're not getting a recording saying, please listen carefully, our menu options have changed, even though we know that never happens. And why everyone
Why do they say that?
Why do they say that? That will not happen. We have someone answering the phone, and someone will call you back and explain to you, once they've researched the issue, the answer. And in a world of AI and automation and efficiency, people are craving that personal interaction, and you will pay for that. Not that I'm expecting people to pay more for it, but people pay high property taxes in the township. And if we can make them feel like they're getting just a little bit more value by how we provide that service in a more hospitality way, that's what we're going to do.
I can give you another example.
Yes.
I've been calling residents after our EMS has taken them to the hospital. And several days later, once they're home, I call them. And I'll say, John, this is Rob Leininger. I'm the Customer Experience Coordinator, Springfield Township. And our EMS took you to XY Hospital on Tuesday. I'm just calling to see how you're feeling. And they're shocked. They're just like, well, you're calling to see how I'm feeling? Yeah, John, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling a lot better. Thanks for calling. That's the kind of thing that, and also that I experience personally too. I get that same satisfaction out of it. But at the same time, I'm encouraging our EMS personnel to make some of those calls to also experiencing that satisfaction that they get, hearing a patient express their gratification. And then normally they'll also say, oh, they were wonderful. You know, the EMS crew was wonderful. They showed empathy, they showed compassion, they were so kind. And, you know, a lot of times people don't remember what you said, they don't remember what you do, but they remember how you made them feel. And that is so true. It's that feeling that people sometimes they just want you to hold their hand or just comfort them, giving them hope in a difficult situation. And we hear that in all departments, whether it's public works or police, it's the same thing.
What I've learned through this over the past year that we've sort of implemented this, and the light bulb moment I had when we started this initiative, is that honestly, internally, I'm probably a hospitalitarian at heart in a city manager body, right, or a township administrative body. And so, you know, this is an easy sort of adaptation for me, but I recognize that it may not be for some others. And so it's constant communication, reinforcing the idea and giving them tangible examples of how this works for their particular job. I was struck a few years ago, I went to some training that Disney put on. And one of the stories I was told was a story, I don't even know if this is true or not, but it's a great story.
Okay.
Is that, you know, Walt Disney would, every Wednesday or so, he would go in the back of a warehouse where a lady, her only job was to sit and paint the characters and the horses that were on the carousel.
Okay.
Never seen customers, never seen guests of the resort or the amusement park. In an effort to make sure she never forgot how important her job was, every Wednesday he would take her out of the warehouse. Let's just assume her name was Mary, and he would take Mary for lunch, and they would sit on a park bench across from the carousel in Disneyland, and he would show her all the families and the kids having a great time on the carousel and say, this is why what you do is important. And I think too often, you know, we don't have those opportunities, whether it be in government or any other profession, to really see why what we do matters. And if through this process and through the things we're going to do internally, if we can show our staff about what they do and how it matters to the people they're providing the service to or for, sometimes we like to say, you know, government service are things that we do to you rather than for you. And we want to switch that. We want it to be things we do for you, not to you. And so if we can provide those tangible examples to our staff and show them that their work matters and is valued, I think our organization will be better, the lives of our employees will be better, and undoubtedly the lives of our residents will be better.
Yeah, I like how it feeds back on itself. Because if you just say government employee,
Right.
and then what pops into your head,
Right.
you don't necessarily think of someone who gets to see the end, who gets to directly help with people.
Right.
And the fact that, on one hand, the residents can enjoy that you're challenging your employees to be able to offer that level of hospitality.
Right.
But on the flip side, your employees can enjoy that they're going to get feedback about how this had an effect. They helped someone find the right spot to do their permit, and that normally would be the last time we'd ever see them. And the fact that there's follow-up, the fact that they have a chance to click a code or go to a website, send an email. There's an email version, residentspeak@springfieldtownship.org.
Right.
So if they're not the QR code type, they can just send an
Right.
email. Means that's going to get back to the person who normally never gets to see the end of what they're working on.
And we will follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in government, like I said earlier in this conversation, there's a lot of things that we can't control. Whether that's because it's outside of our jurisdiction, our responsibility, or simply we don't have the resources to do it. You know, one of the biggest complaints we get is about the condition of roads, and we understand that that's a problem, and infrastructure is a problem for every community. Funding those are a very expensive endeavor. And we do the best with the resources we have, and I understand that a lot of people watching this may say, well, just fix my road. I don't care about all this hospitality stuff. And I understand that, and I get it. But for us, if we can't control the fact that we don't have the resources to pave every road to everyone's level of satisfaction, which I wish we did, but we just simply don't, one thing we can control is our attitude and how we provide service, how we value the interaction with our residents. And you said it a second ago in a different way that, you know, we need to realize that somebody can live their entire life in a community and never interact with their local government. And when they do, especially if it's police or fire related, it could be the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that. And our staff needs to realize that every interaction they have with that resident or that customer may be the only time that person interacts with us, or it's on the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
And I know you're busy as a staff person, you're running from call to call to call, but every resident should feel like that conversation, that interaction is the most important thing we did that day. And if we do that, and that person walks away with that feeling, then we've succeeded. We always know that people tend to tell bad news more than they do good news,
Oh my goodness, yes.
right? So if you go to a restaurant and you have a bad
Yeah.
experience, you're probably going to tell a lot more people about that than if you had a very good experience.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we limit the bad experiences, and we create an atmosphere where the good experiences are the norm.
So let me ask you this. You got the idea because you were just eating at restaurants and you thought there's another way to think about government and
Yeah.
it's more in line with the way that I think about restaurants.
Sure.
Do you see other government organizations looking at it the same way?
Honestly, no. And not to say that other governments don't feel like they provide exceptional customer service, because I think if you ask any other organization, they would say we do.
Sure.
Right?
Hopefully,
and,
yes.
And that's fine. But do they look at it in a way, do they look at it through the hospitality lens? I'm not sure they do. And if they think they are, I would venture to bet that they're really not. So yes, I got the idea because of my passion for restaurants and the functioning of those and hospitality in general. My wife said we're going to go out for your 50th birthday last year. So yes, I am over 50 at this point. No comments, Rob. And phenomenal experience, great restaurant, totally surprised. They found out while I was there, made us feel welcomed. I seen someone in the corner and I said, you look like you're the general manager or something. He goes, I'm the owner. I said, I just want to let you know it's a phenomenal experience, great. I'll definitely be back. He said, thanks. A few seconds later, he gave me a celebratory drink at the bar, and my wife came back from the restaurant. He's like, only you, I'm gone for 5 minutes, and now you're sitting at the bar with the owner of the restaurant. But
Nice.
my point is, then he took it a step further, and when we were leaving and we were in the car, I get a text message from him. He went into the reservation, found my phone number, sent me a nice text message about meeting me and welcoming me back to the restaurant anytime. That's hospitality. So now he has a customer for life, right?
Yeah.
That took him 30 seconds. Fast forward to today, that same person who is very prominent in the hospitality world is a partner for us in implementing the hospitality idea at Springfield Township. Okay. That one encounter, just him sending a simple text, has now created, hopefully, a transformation in local government, a friendship between the two of us, and him working with Springfield Township to bring not only my ideas to life, but his ideas in hospitality and how those can be imparted into government.
It seems like I'm seeing a difference between thinking of situations as tasks to complete or people to interact with.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure people know about this initiative?
No, I think, it's simply to let people realize that we're here to do nothing more than to provide outstanding service, and we'll call it hospitality, to our residents. There's no other reason for us to exist.
We want to make sure, too, that anybody that has contact with our local government services, that they're going to be treated professionally with respect. They're going to be listened to. We will share empathy and compassion to their situation. And they're going to be made to feel welcome. If you come in to our facilities, you're going to be greeted warmly, professionally. The two ladies Diana and Tamara, that are at our front desk, when you walk into our lobby, they greet you with a smile. How can we help you, kind of thing. And I've seen people walk into our lobby and they come in maybe a little grumpy, kind of dealing with an issue. And by the time they leave, they got a smile and their thank you kind of thing. And, that makes a difference. And that's what we want the people that live and work in our township to know, that they're valued.
It's also, we'll end with this, it's a journey, it's not a destination, and we know that, consistency isn't always gonna be there, that, our staff are people too, and sometimes they're having a bad day, and you may not feel like you received the hospitality that we're touting here today. And, I want everyone to know that we're endeavoring to do what we're talking about today. It's not a perfect science. People are fallible. And, but our goal is to make sure that everyone gets the same care, whether it's, John, providing your service or
Yeah.
Susie, whoever. It's just, I don't
Who
know
are
why.
definitely real people in the township.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to come back to the card.
Yeah.
The residents can let you know firsthand. That's different than just telling your friends or posting it on your Facebook page, that you may not be able to help them with anything they share there because you won't see it. So reaching out directly and letting you know, hey, is there something that they need help with? Or, hey, someone was amazing and I feel like you need to know that. Definitely tell them that. They want to know that too. That will make their day better. I also want to make sure residents know that they are following you, because you are, one of the ways that you are providing this hospitality is information.
Sure.
And they can get information on your Facebook page. They can get information on your Instagram page.
Right.
You are on X, formerly known as Twitter. You are on TikTok.
Yeah.
Definitely look at those. That's very fun. But also, everything about the township is on your website,
Sure.
springfieldtwp.org.
right.
And so it's the first place to start when you need to know something and look something
Mm-hmm.
up. But if you don't know, if you look at the website and there's way too many things on there to figure out, then you can just call and check out that hospitality, because we've just spent a while talking about it. So now I think as a resident, you should go check it out and see what that feels like. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
And thank you for watching. That means you want to stay informed on what's happening in Springfield Township. And we'll see you next time.